We've been working more or less full-time on our game Mistwinter Bay for over a year now. During that time, we worked on features and characters that were planned from the start of development about 3 years ago. That has helped us avoid feature creep, which basically means adding a bunch of unnecessary features, which in turn extends and complicates the development of a game. But in the past few weeks, we've actually added 4 unplanned features to the game. My name is Wogglawooh, and today I'm here to introduce these features to you. Mistwinter Bay is a visual novel RPG. What does that mean? It means that you take on the role of a character and act out its life in a way that visually resembles a visual novel. There are quite a few classic RPG elements missing from Mistwinter Bay, like combat and an inventory system. But we've added one classic RPG element now. We haven't added combat to Mistwinter Bay and we never will, but we have added a sort of inventory system. We call this the collection, and it's the first new feature we'll look into today. In the demo for Mistwinter Bay, there are 2 short monthly events that provide you with items: Jack's backstory event and the portrait artist's event. However, those items were never shown anywhere and you never actually received them in any way. That has been changed now, with the introduction of the collection. The collection is a new menu in the throne room at the start of a month. When you click this button, you'll see a list of all the items you've gained throughout the game. When you start a new playthrough, you only have one item, the ceremonial crown that proves that you rule Mistwinter Bay. Other items can be gained by completing certain paths in certain events. So far, there are 11 items in the collection, including the crown that you get automatically. Out of the rest of them, only 4 can actually be gained in the game right now, so if you kept up with our devlogs, you might be able to figure out what, or rather who, the other items are related to. The 4 items that can be obtained in the game right now can be found in 2 short monthly events, 1 married life event and 1 personal quest. Most of these items are purely sentimental, or they give you a one-time reputation boost. That gives them this line in their description, indicating that they're only for decoration. Only one of the items, Englia's Potion, causes a permanent effect, as indicated by this line. So the collection menu might not look too interesting right now, it's basically a glorified picture gallery, but by implementing it now, we can add new items whenever and wherever we want to, which opens up a lot of opportunities for future events, and we'll definitely be adding more items to it in the future. If you played the demo for Mistwinter Bay, you might remember Empress Ophelia mentioning that you had the right to change laws in the town of Mistwinter Bay. However, there was no way to actually make or change any law. That has been changed now with the introduction of the law feature. Implementing laws could be a very complex feature that could change the game's systems and mechanics in many ways. So many ways, in fact, that by adding a complex law feature, we would definitely be feature creeping. We want to keep things simple and manageable since Mistwinter Bay is already a very complex game. That's why we've opted for a fairly simple law feature. This simplicity means that laws are pretty solid. You can't change laws on a whim. You can't write a law and then change it the next month. You can't affect laws that would fundamentally change the culture and social structure in Mistwinter Bay. Your people wouldn't agree to that. Instead, laws are linked to events. If you take a specific route in an event, you might write a new law or change an existing one. In short, the law feature is a response to what you do in events. It can almost be seen as a journal, since every law is marked with the month and year when you implemented it. But that doesn't mean laws can't affect certain game mechanics. When writing certain laws, you may lose or gain reputation. You might start gaining or losing gold or other resources. Some laws may even make it possible for some monthly events to take place and impossible for others. The law menu, which you can see in the throne room at the start of a month, is empty at the beginning of the game. Depending on what you do in the game, you may add laws to it, or it may remain empty for the entire playthrough. We don't know how easy or hard it'll be to gain laws in the finished game since, well, it isn't finished yet, but when you do get a new law, you'll be informed of it. So far, there are only 4 laws that can be implemented or changed. One of them can be gained from a personal quest, another from a married life event, and another from a negative reputation event. The 4th one is a revision of an existing law that is presented in a short monthly event about a noble couple's divorce. You may have encountered this event if you've played the demo. In this event, Jack tells you about an existing law that requires the sovereign to decide the details of a noble couple's divorce. That law states that the sovereign has to decide for them if they can't come to an agreement and their combined assets exceed a certain value. If you take a specific path in this event, the matter remains unsolved and the court is annoyed by the noble couple's continued bickering. With the addition of the law feature, you now change the existing law if you take this specific path in the event. You basically say that the sovereign shouldn't have to deal with nonsense like that anymore. Now that the law feature has been added, we will of course add a lot more laws in different events. This is a feature that it feels like we should have thought about from the start, since it's pretty closely connected to governing towns, which is basically what you do in Mistwinter Bay. And Empress Ophelia kinda said that you have the power to change taxes as you please, but hey, better to think about it late than not at all. Like the other features we mentioned so far, the taxes can be viewed from the new menu in the throne room at the start of a month. Unlike the previously mentioned features, you can change the taxes here. They consist of checkboxes that say if you have turned on increased taxes for certain social classes in town or not. If you have, you gain a certain amount of coins per month, based on the social class and the number of townsfolk you have of that class. If you got 1 person in the class, you gain 1 payment of coins. If you have 5, you gain 5 payments. This might seem like an incredibly powerful feature, which it kind of is, but there are some downsides. First of all, just as you gain coins per month by increasing taxes, you also lose reputation per month with the affected social class. You can't decrease taxes again for a certain amount of months, which means that the townsfolk in that social class are guaranteed to lose a certain amount of reputation. How much depends on the social class. Taxes are active for as long as you don't turn them off, which means that they can be active for longer than the demanded period. But don't worry, once you can lower the taxes again, you'll be notified about it in the throne room. Secondly, increasing taxes counts as gaining coins per month. This is important since there are events that can make you start losing coins per month. If this happens, you might not be able to lower taxes again, if lowering them would result in your coins per month going below 0. This would of course mean that the social class which you have increased the taxes for will keep losing reputation monthly until you can afford to lower the taxes again. So taxes are a powerful tool that can have some dire consequences. This feature is a response to a comment we saw about how criminals are doing all sorts of stuff in Mistwinter Bay even though the guards are supposedly onto them. To combat this dissonance, we've added the ability to control how many guards there are in town. This can be controlled in the same menu as the taxes. Controlling the guard presence looks simple at first glance. You just press arrows to increase or decrease it, right? Yes, but also no. Because at the start of the game, you can't change the guard presence, because you have no room for guards. That means you have to build either the barracks or the guard tower to be able to raise the guard presence from low to medium. Build the other building as well and you can raise it all the way to high. But just as with taxes, raising the guard presence comes with some downsides. You have to pay a certain amount of gold per month to keep the guard presence at a certain level. Right now, when we haven't playtested things properly, the low level costs nothing, medium costs 20 gold per month, and high costs 50 gold per month. This means that you can't increase the guard presence if you can't afford to pay the gold per month. The other downside is that you can only change the guard presence once per season. This means that you can either increase or decrease 1 time per season. This is mostly a way to combat mass lowering of reputation, since lowering the guard presence means that everyone in town, regardless of social class, loses a certain amount of reputation. So if there were no limit to how often you can change the guard presence, you could just increase and decrease it infinitely and have everyone in town hate you in a matter of seconds. So, decreasing the guard presence means losing reputation with everyone in town. It also means that you gain gold per month. And increasing it means losing coins per month. But what do you gain from increasing it? As the text in the menu says, it affects which monthly events can take place. Some events that are directly related to guards or crime may not show up if you have medium or high guard presence. You'll probably never actively notice it since it's very behind the scenes, but trust us when we say things are actually affected. So far, there are 3 short events and 2 long events that can't happen if the guard presence is above a certain level. In a nutshell, changing the guard presence basically tells the game how many crime-related events you'd like. It's important to mention, though, that changing the guard presence doesn't affect what happens in character-related events like personal quests and so on. And those are the 4 brand new unplanned features we have added. We will of course keep expanding these features by linking more events to them and balancing the taxes. But that's for the future. Right now we have a lot of other things to work on, like adding 14 more townsfolk. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next month.